It will be an interactive session for 90 minutes where we expect you to be asked questions and to answer them. When they ask through the chair. You also answer through the chair. Avoid any temptation to exchange with any member, even if you asked a question that you are uncomfortable with. We will, after the preliminaries, give you 10 minutes to tell us your story, the story of your life. After that, we will engage with you. 3 minutes before you leave the room, we'll also give you an opportunity to tell us your last testament, so to speak. The committee is chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly. Yours truly here. I'll give an opportunity to all members to introduce themselves, then the clerk's office, then we move to the next, starting with the Deputy Speaker.
My name is Gladys Boss, member for Uasin Gishu County and Deputy Speaker at the National Assembly. Karibu.
Kimani Ishongwa, MP Kikuyu.
Opio Wandai, MP Ugunja.
Junet Mohammed, MP Sunais.
Owen Baya, MP Kilifi North.
Robert Mbui, MP Kadhiani.
Rehab Mukami, County MP Nyeri. And I want to declare that Florence is my good friend. Thank you.
Ferdinand Wanyonyi, MP Kwanza, Trans Nzoia County.
George Gitonga Murugara, MP Tharaka Nithi County.
And David Kosi, my name. Pokot South MP.
Abdul Rahim Daud, MP for North Imenti, Meru County.
Naitwa Mheshimiwa Mishi Mboko, mjumbe wa Likoni. Mheshimiwa Florence Bora alikuwa mwenzangu katika timu ya wanaokimbia, msimuone hivyo, wanakimbia 200 meter na 100 meters.
Good afternoon, Caleb Amisi, MP Saboti.
Emma Semeri, Teso South. Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West. And I must also declare that I've worked closely with Honorable Florence in a parliamentary committee, and she's also my friend. But you can be sure today that will not hinder me exercising my duty.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. My name is Sarah Kioko. I'm the acting clerk of the National Assembly, and I have with me the Director, Audit, Appropriations, and other select committees, Ms. Florence Abonyo, and also the Deputy Director, Legal Services, Mr. Michael Karuru, and quite a number of other staff of Parliament, the National Assembly specifically, who are assisting this committee. Thank you, Chairman.
Florence, I'll ask you about a few documents. Do you have your KRA clearance certificate? Speak to the mic.
Yes, Chair.
Do you have your Higher Education Loans Board clearance?
Yes, Chair.
Ethics and Corruption Commission clearance?
Yes, Chair.
Certificate of Good Conduct?
Yes, Chair.
Have you ever been charged in a court of law and convicted of an offense?
No, Chair.
Are you a dual citizen of Kenya and any other sovereign?
I'm a Kenyan citizen.
You have your national ID card?
Yes, Chair.
You'll furnish the original with the clerk's team, and they'll give it back to you later.
Okay.
What is your financial net worth?
My financial net worth is about 200 million Kenya shillings.
What is that made of?
My home in Kericho with a tea farm, that is about 60 million. My home in Nairobi, that is about 25 million. Some pieces of land in Kericho and in Kajiado. Some vehicles that add up to about approximately, all of them about 175 million. So I've approximated to about 200 million. I also have shares in 3 SACCOs, one of them Pacoso, in Marisha and Kenya Highlands Sacco.
Is that family wealth or personal wealth?
Some of them are family wealth, like the Kericho home. Yes.
I'll give you 10 minutes to tell us the story of your life. I'm sure you've been watching the proceedings.
Yes.
Tell us, who is Florence Bore, and how has your journey been up to where you are sitting?
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. Let me take this opportunity to sincerely thank you for according me this opportunity to come before this committee. Secondly, I want to thank His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for finding it fit to give me this position as a nominee in the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. I want to promise that if approved by this committee, I will work hard and serve all Kenyans diligently. My early background, before I go there, I want to say I'm a wife, I'm a mother of 3, and I'm a firstborn in a family of 6. My mother is a retired teacher, and my late father was an accountant and an auditor with the tea industry, having worked before in the civil service. And I started my education at a school in my home village called Kapsuser Primary School from 1977 up to 1979, class 1 to class 3. Then my father moved me to St. Patrick's Primary School, still in Kericho County, and I started my education there. I continued with my education there from class 4 to class 7, and I did my CP. Then I moved on to KBC Girls for my O levels, that is Form 1 to Form 4 in 1987. After that, I went back to the same school in 1988-89 for my Form 5 and Form 6. Thereafter, I went for attachment at Unilever T at the medical center, at the medical hospital, where I worked for about a year before I joined Kagumo Teachers Training College in Nyeri for my degree in education. Thereafter, I went for my teaching practice at Nakuru High School. Then I was posted to Kericho Day Secondary School.
Kagumo covering degrees?
I said a diploma in education.
Okay.
So after my diploma in education in Kagumo, I was posted to Nakuru High and then posted to Kericho Day Secondary School, where I taught for about 20 years. While at Kericho Day, I was able to do my degree at Moi University because they started a campus just across the school at Kericho Teachers College. So within that campus, I was able to do my degree in education. Then I moved to another school, 2 more schools, Kericho T Boys and Toror Girls as a deputy principal in 2011. 2012, I resigned from teaching. I vied for the women rep seat, Kericho. I wasn't successful. Then I was employed at the county government of Bomet as a director of education in charge of vocational training. I was there in 2014 to 2015. 2015, I was appointed by the then government as a board member at GDC, Geothermal Development Company, the parastatal in the Ministry of Energy. I was a board member in charge of human resource and also the audit committee. That is where I was able to work with other board members to streamline GDC. We were able to have a new management They had issues, but we were able to streamline to have a new CEO and new managers that helped the operations of the company. We were able to open new operations at Baringo Silali, and the company did well, and I believe it is still doing very well since then. From GDC in 2017, I resigned as a board member. I think I still had 1 more year to go. So I vied again for the woman rep seat in Kericho, and this time round I got it, and I came to Parliament, where I've been serving until the year 2022. In Parliament, I was able to serve together with some of my colleagues here in the Committee of Members' Welfare and Facilities, the Committee of Sports, Tourism and Culture, and Budget and Appropriation Committee. And I want to thank teachers that have shaped my life in my high school. Some of my high school teachers were the late Dr. Joyce Laboso. I also have teachers like Waduoro Ngwen. Those were my teachers during my time, and the other teachers that were with us at that time. And I want to thank them for shaping me. I want to promise that I will work hard and truly serve this nation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open up to the plenary for members to ask you and engage you in the manner that I said, starting with the Deputy Speaker.
Good afternoon, Mheshimiwa Bore.
Thank you.
First, I want to give you my heartiest congratulations on being nominated as for the position of Cabinet Secretary, Labor and Social Protection. As a women's rights activist, I am immensely proud that you're here today. And I know that some people said I shouldn't say that, but I have no apologies, Honorable Chair. Yes. So I want to ask you, one of the key pillars of the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto is establishment of the universal social security system and revamping NSSF. So which specific social protection interventions will you embrace to achieve this pillar? Thank you.
We'll take 4, then you respond. Kimani Ichung'wah.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Florence worked with me in the Budget and Appropriations Committee before we were evicted and ended up again together in the Members' Welfare Committee. So I know her capacity. But Florence, you've been nominated into a very critical ministry, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. And you've had the pronouncement by His Excellency the President on increasing, or rather changing our culture of savings and increasing the contributions to NSSF by everybody in the country, both employed and those who are not in formal employment. I would want to hear what your plan would be to ensure that we achieve this, and more so, even from those who are not employed. What strategies will you deploy to make sure that you encourage even those who are not in formal employment to get into savings? 2, you have seen stories of our young people who have been treated to very inhumane treatment in some countries, more so in the Middle East, a few countries in the Middle East. You remember the case of the young lady from Bomet County, your neighboring county, and many others from Kilifi and all over. I want to hear what interventions, again, if you are approved as minister, you would have to ensure that our young people are not treated to inhumane conditions wherever they go to work around the world. And more so, what interventions you would be proposing in your ministry to ensure that if any Kenyan is suffering out there, they have a way of getting back to the country without delay. Lastly, the working force in the West, basically in Western Europe, even in the Americas, they have an aging work group or working class. And here back at home, we have a very big population of young and very productive people who are very well trained and educated. I want to hear what you intend to do as minister to ensure that you tap into that market in the West, even in other Far East countries like South Korea. They also have that problem of having an aging working group. Yet we have that labor here that we can be able to export there. I want to hear just what your strategies would be to make sure that we get into those other areas other than Kenyans just looking into the Middle East where they get mistreated and they could get job opportunities in the Far East and in the Western countries.
Honorable Bore, you must have noticed some kind of unrest or turmoil the last few days or so within Kericho tea estates. Okay? A case in point is the touching of some tea plucking machines at the Tagabi estate owned by some multinational company in Belgut 2 weeks ago. We also saw some demonstration or running battles between the youth and police in Konoin constituency, I think 2 days ago. The issue here is about the employment of tea plucking machines, and the Kericho governor has been unrepentant on this matter. He has been very, very, very loud and insisting that tea companies must cede their ground to the demands or quit operations in the region altogether. Now, as CS nominee, what is your view on mechanized tea plucking in these estates? Okay, and considering that these multinational companies are a source of gainful employment, really, not only in Kericho but in Bomet and other counties, okay, who employ locals. Do you support the view of the governor that these companies must cede the ground, must cede to the demands of these locals, or pack and go home? Secondly, is I took some time to look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto with regard to your docket. At page 55, there's a pronouncement that Kenya Kwanza commits to a fit-for-purpose universal social security system encompassing pension, occupational hazard, and unemployment insurance. End of quote. So, what could you kindly help jobless Kenyans understand what exactly is meant by unemployment insurance in that manifesto? Is it a monthly stipend given to jobless youths until they find some job? Because many Kenyans who are jobless would love to know how to benefit from this unemployment insurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the Honorable friend is my friend also, but that's another story. Now, Madam Nominee.
She's just also.
Yeah. You know, Chairman, during the political times, when I make a lot of noise, she's one of the people who stop me in Parliament, tell me, end up police. But now, that's another story. Now, Madam Nominee, the biggest problem we are facing in employment of our population is the youth. Those are the people who are really suffering in this country, and they form a big bulk of our population. And you know, when they are looking for jobs, they will be told to bring, they say the qualification for the job, let's say, is 5 years experience. There is no university that gives you a degree of experience. You have just finished university now. Maybe you married at the university, you have a kid, you are jobless, you are tammacking here, and all the qualifications he has in terms of educational qualification and other qualifications, but the only one doesn't have his experience, for example. That is why majority of them are jobless and they are suffering. What do you think you can do as the minister in charge of employment, if you are approved by this house, to mainstream the youth so that in any employment that is done in this country, 60 to 70% goes to the youth and 30% to the elderly? My second question is the issue of, if you look at the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, they say that in 5 years they will finish malnutrition in this country completely. Everyone will be fed, stomachs will be full, everyone will be healthy, everyone is going to be happy, there will be reproduction of people in this country. How do you intend to achieve that in 5 years? What plans will you put in place to make sure that no Kenyan sleeps hungry within 5 years?
Robert Mbui. We'll take 5, Florence.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to ask the nominee that we've all heard the proposal to increase savings. And the first thing that comes to mind is that in this country, the mamambogas, the boda-bodas, and those peasant farmers are struggling to even put food on the table and to educate their children. How do you reconcile those two? Increasing savings when people cannot even afford the basic needs. And then, how will you assure workers that if these savings are increased, that their money will be safe? Because I think the vehicle we are intending to use is NSSF, which in the past has been riddled with very serious cases of misuse of workers' money. In fact, I will tell you that there is a lot of corruption cases that occurred during the days of YK92, where they turned NSSF into a cash cow. What will you do to ensure this doesn't happen again?
When?
Thank you, Speaker Chair. I just have one question, and I note also that you are a teacher like I was before. And, yes, so represent the teachers well. But I want to say, over the years, we have
social security and how to revamp social security. Let me start by saying this is a flagship project for this government, and the President has been very passionate about saving for the future. I know NSSF has been the fund that has been taking care of this, and maybe challenges have been there before. And what we want to speak to are the contributions that are made to NSSF. The 200 shillings that is paid by the worker and the employer is not enough to be able to save for the future. We have seen the challenges that beneficiaries have at the end or at retirement. They are not able to get those benefits because maybe the fund is not enough. It has not been invested in income generating projects. I think the savings have been earning very low interests, so the returns are not enough to be able to make meaningful benefits to the beneficiaries. However, I think we should look at what other countries are doing. When I looked at Uganda, looked at Tanzania, we are proposing in Kenya to raise the contributions to about 6% of of our pay, of the pay of the workers. Across in Uganda, it is about 15%, 16%. So we are not even yet there. But we want to tell our people to save for the future. When we save more, we are guarding that future by having more contributions. The other thing that I know is that the contributions that we make is not pegged on the salaries that Kenyans have or the workers in Kenya get. For example, the person who gets a salary of 1 million still pays the 200 shillings. Really, we need to increase depending on the amount that a person is earning to be able to have better contributions and have a better contributions to NSSF. The other thing on universal social security is that we need Kenya to be able to be at the standard of ILO, where we have social security standards. The international standards are very high, and Kenya has not ratified that ILO standard, and we are yet to reach there. It will take maybe another 4 years for us to be able to reach at that international standard. That question I will still answer on the question that has been asked on the same later on, that was asked by Honorable Mbui. Now, the informal sector on NSSF savings that has been asked by Honorable Ichung'wa, how we bring in the informal sector to be able to pay into this NSSF. What I know is that currently we are getting contributions from the employed workers. We are not getting contributions from the informal sector, the mama mboga, the boda boda sector. We need to find a way how we can generate or how we can attract payments from the informal sector. Either we partner with Safaricom so that when you load airtime, part of it goes to NSSF, and be able to know how we can bring on board and ensure that these investments are productive, so that we are encouraged to save onto NSSF. Because right now we have SACCOs. We go to SACCOs because we get dividends. So I think NSSF should also be able to attract these people on board and be able to benefit the informal sector. Honorable Ichung'wa has also asked about the humane operations of the migrant workers. I want to empathize with the migrant workers that have gone to the Middle East and have been oppressed. They have been mistreated because of their stay there. And I want to say, no parent, no guardian sends a child across to the Gulf to expect them to come in a coffin or to expect them to be mistreated. They go there because of unemployment. They go there to look for jobs, to be able to improve their households back here. And I want to promise that I'll get to the bottom of this issue. And this issue has led to many deaths. When you talk about 62 deaths just this year, even that one life that we have lost as Kenya, we should find out what is happening. And I want to promise that I will look into it. My first action will be to look at, if I'm approved by this committee, is to be able to discuss with my counterpart in Saudi Arabia to be able to see what we can do to improve the conditions of these migrant workers. I'm happy to report that Parliament was able to approve 60 million to be able to create a safe home where we can put our migrant workers, the Kenyan workers who are in distress. Once we have them there, once we have the houses, maybe we can have those who are in desperate situations to hold them there as we prepare them to come back to Kenya, or even put them in other employment. The other challenge that we have as a Ministry of Labour is that the labour attaches that are in Gulf region are very few. For example, in Saudi Arabia, we only have one staff, one labour attaché that handles over 210,000 Kenyans who are spread across Saudi Arabia. So part of that money that has been approved will be employing about 10 labour attachés that will be able to spread them across Saudi Arabia in various cities so that they are able to handle them and be able to listen to them. My also thoughts are the workers that we have in Saudi Arabia are about 210,000. Within those cities, they should be able to be knowing who they are, who are there, be able to help each other, have some form of relaying of information from each other so that we have sort of kind of people who man them among themselves and be able to report to the labour attachés to be able to sort their problems in time. The other issue that I would be trying to look at is to be able to ensure that they have a welfare fund so that all the time they have issues, they can be helped. And I think they should also have some cover for medical, because it looks like when they are in problems, they are in health issues, they have health issues, they are not treated well and they suffer, and by the time they are back here, our neighbors, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Ethiopia, there are 11 countries. I'll be following up on that to see how far they are. Here, the minister in charge currently is Minister of Labour from Ethiopia, and I'll be following up to see how much they've done. Speaking on the same, I would want to say it is also good for us to open up markets, more markets than Saudi Arabia, be able to do bilateral labor agreements with other countries. We don't have to rely on Saudi Arabia alone. The other thing that needs to be done is to streamline NEA, National Employment Authority, that does the registration of these agencies. I'm told the agencies is about 500. There could be gaps within those agencies. And it is a multi-sectoral committee that does the vetting of these agencies. The Ministry of Interior is involved. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is involved. We have the DCI. We have almost 10 government organizations. That committee needs to be relooked into, streamlined, be able to see what these agencies are doing and ensure that they are doing the right thing. The other proposal is to ensure that there is pre-departure training for these migrant workers. Some of them, they go to Saudi Arabia without the basic skills. They don't have the language, so once they reach there, they are not able to speak in English, so they are not able to communicate with the Saudis. Number two, if they don't go through this training, once they reach there, they may not be able to do the household activities that they are supposed to do, and also even to be given the basics about the culture of the Saudis. So my thoughts are, we have a mandatory pre-departure training and ensure that no Kenyan domestic worker goes out without that training to go and work in that country.
Point of intervention, Honorable Chair. The issue here being discussed is that many Kenyans who go to Saudi Arabia,
yes,
come back dead.
Yes.
Nobody's complaining about whether they have the ability to do the job, whether they need training. The issue is why are they ending up dead? And has the Saudi Arabian, and I've never had anyone saying that they're going to hold the Saudi Arabian government to account, because we have Saudi Arabians in Kenya, but they don't end up dead. But our children are ending up dead. So that is the issue. Doesn't matter how many committees or how many officers we send to Saudi Arabia, because they are not police officers. It is the police officers and the security forces in Saudi Arabia that are not protecting the migrant workers. So even if you send 100 embassy officials and attachés, how will that protect them?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I think it is also the system that is in Saudi Arabia. Once these migrant workers are in Saudi, they are under the mercies of the employer. They are not even supposed to move out of that household. They are not, that's why I was saying that pre-departure training will also try and help to show these Kenyans the kind of culture they have. They are within that household, that employer that has control over that person, that worker. So they do not get out of those homesteads. So even this, I agree, there is a problem and we need to address it. And I believe with the political goodwill, we are going to do much and stop this menace once and for all. Thank you.
All the questions.
Yes. Mr. Speaker.
A question on the airport.
On
the airline.
I thought she was noting them down.
My question.
I did.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the direction from the speaker.
My question on the pilot.
No, I have not finished.
Yes, no, that is a very serious case.
Thank you.
The Deputy Speaker's question was just an
I've finished and I've done Honorable Chungwas.
All those 5 honorable members.
The third one by Honorable Chungwa was on the aging workforce in the international destinations. And he was asking, how can we help our youth be able to go and work there? I'm sure we can collaborate and see how we can create jobs for the youth. In terms of even, they don't even have to go there. They can do some of the jobs through the internet and help them. Honorable Andai asked about the unrests in Kericho, plucking machines that happened about 2 weeks ago, and even the one that happened about 2 days ago. The view on mechanized tea estates. As a Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, on labor issues, I want to say I'm ready to provide an environment for the businesses to be able to thrive in this country. Number 2, I would also provide an environment for the stakeholders to sit down and discuss. I'm aware the last agreement between FKE and the employees was that, and government was that 40% mechanization was being allowed and 60% employment for Kenyans, including the locals. So I want to believe where I am, the government's position is for the status quo to remain and to really have the stakeholders on the table so that we can discuss and have dialogue. This is our country. We want jobs for our people, and we also, as a ministry, encourage mechanization to be done, but to a certain level. At the same time, employ our people. And I'll tell you, I come from that region, and you see tea farms that are very big, and maybe on my thoughts is that these multinational companies should also improve on CSR. What they're doing is not enough. They can do more than that. And then the land rates that are there are things that we can discuss on the table and agree and move on. Thank you. You also asked about the Kenya Kwanza manifesto on, I think it was about social security. and unemployment. We cannot run away from unemployment in this country, and I want to believe that the Hustler Fund will be able to address this issue of unemployment, be able to provide money for the youths that are unemployed to be able to do their businesses, and encourage them that as even they do the businesses, they save for their retirement, they save for their future, and will be able to protect their investments in NSSF.
So is the Hustler Fund the equivalent of unemployment insurance envisaged in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto?
I'll relook at it. I don't want to say I know everything, but I'll be able to sit down and relate that issue. And you're welcome to my office. We can discuss again. Hustler Fund is for all Kenyans. It is not just for Kenya Kwanza. Thank you. Honorable Junet, my friend in Parliament, we were on different sides, but we related well, and I want to say thank you. Your question was on unemployment, the employment of population. We have youth that are very many that do not have experience, and every time they want to get employment, they are asked for their experience. I know through NITA, we can be able to take up youths that have finished various courses and attach them in various industries. So industrial attachment is one of our responsibilities as a ministry, and I know we'll be working with NITA to be able to ensure that our youth are taken up to be able to get that experience. There's a lot that is being done by NITA. I will tell you, we are not just looking at the white-collar jobs, we are also looking at even those artisans who have experience without going through any training, yet they have the skill. We have what has been started that is called recognition of prior learning. You recognize a skill that someone has, certified by NITA, and they can also be given the mandate to be able to train others, and NITA helps them in certifying them. I would also be reaching out to the other ministries that will work together to ensure that we take up most of our youths into employment, into attachments, into internships, so that we are able to give them experience and be ready for the job market. You also asked a question on Kenya Kwanza manifesto, where we'll have to finish malnutrition in 5 years. I want to say malnutrition affects children under 5 years. And I'll be working with most of the county governments that provide ECD education to ensure that these children are protected. We also have NGOs that have come on board that help us as a ministry to be able to provide food, to be able to provide stipends for those vulnerable, the vulnerable population, like these children. Currently, there is an ongoing program in the ministry that is funded by World Bank and UNICEF, where the pilot program is being done in 5 counties of Marsabit. It is also being done in Kitui, another 5 counties. So the issue here to be able to spread across the country, we ensure we involve these county governments to ensure that our children do not die of malnutrition. We also ensure that they are vaccinated because they are under 5 years and they should be vaccinated against diseases. The other approach is to ensure that we have education on the masses to prevent malnutrition by ensuring that we provide foods that are right, and if they don't have the foods, we also encourage them to provide, the basics of a healthy diet. We also ensure that the mothers are able to breastfeed their babies, if possible, for the first 6 months. But I know the question could be, if that mother cannot even be able to get food to eat, would she be able to produce milk to be able to breastfeed that baby? In other third world countries, in other developed countries, they have an equivalent of a blood bank of breast milk bank, where those who have excess milk can be able to donate. Maybe we'll look at that in the near future. But I want to answer Honorable Junet by telling him that we will sort out that issue of malnutrition. It is also my area. I'm passionate about it. I'll go across and see how best we can be able to address the issue. Then you have the increase of savings for Mama Mboga and basic needs, yet they cannot get the basic needs. I said we will support the Mama Mboga, the Boda Boda, using the Hustler Fund, and as they do those businesses, we encourage them to save with NSSF for their future. Savings, how do we save with NSSF? How do we take care of our investments at NSSF? I look forward to streamline the NSSF. We ensure we have a board that is able to take care of the fund and be able to make investments. And we'll be able to do that by ensuring that we have quarterly reports about the investments that are put in the media to ensure that we have transparency. We will also ensure that we have the Auditor General to be able to audit the investments at NSSF, and then generally encourage the culture of saving by Kenyans. Chair, I think I've finished. There was a question by Honorable Mbui, I think on the large strikes, or is it? It is Owen, sorry. On the strikes at Kenya IOS, I also want to promise that I'll sit down with them and be able to look at the issues that are there and be able to bring a solution to Kenya Airways.
Florence, I want us to upscale our speed.
Yes.
You have taken about 40 minutes to talk about some short questions from these colleagues. We'll take another round.
Yes.
This time, like I said, you have to be precise and concise. And when you ask questions, also be precise and concise. Mary, Ferdinand, Daud, Mishi. Let's take those first. George, did you also want to join the fray? So Mary, Ferdinand, George, Daud, Mishi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
One question each.
Speaker, we had an agreement. On this side, it's just the three of us. I have 3 questions, kindly.
I have already
Very
given,
short.
I've already given 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We were told earlier that NSSF has increased its contributions and returns on investment to 280 billion. And at the moment, there is an informal sector product called Haba Haba, where you contribute 25 shillings per day, and if you do that continuously for 5 years, you're able to get half of that money to refinance your business. How do you intend to improve on that? Secondly, with inflation, the cost of living has gone very high, and the minimum wage bill can hardly, the minimum daily wage, can hardly, sustain the ordinary worker. Having in mind the prevailing economic situation, how do you intend to deal with that issue of the minimum wage? And as I conclude, this is very dear to me, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, on the issue of social protection, famously known as Pesa ya Wazee, widows, and persons with disability. There are challenges in that sector. In the last, I think, 3 to 5 years, there is hardly any new entrants or beneficiaries. There's no registration of new beneficiaries into the fund, I think, and many others. How are you planning to deal with the issue of duplication and then the distribution of those social funds, and then there's also segregation. In some wards, you find it is the widows benefiting. You go to some wards, it is the persons with disability. So Kenyans are asking, where is equity there in these funds, in the distribution of those funds? What do you have to say about that? Thank you.
Flo, ex-colleague, I think Ichungo asked this question, and my best, because I've been affected, this Middle East issue, it should go beyond what you have said. Because the issue here is the agents, the Kenyan agents here locally, and agents in the Middle East, because I have actually a case. I have a case in the Middle East. The question is, the agents here and the agents in the Middle East are all bogus. Because the moment they have that connection, say 5 children or 5 girls or 4 or 10, whatever, they are going to the Middle East, the moment they get to Middle East, these girls' telephone sets and passports are taken by employees, by the employer, sorry, and Florence, go down, because it's a very urgent thing. People are suffering. Then when they get there, and the passport has been taken, the telephone has been taken, so what happens is that this particular child, I call them the anomaly children, there's no connection between the embassy, our embassy in the Middle East, and the number of children that have been sent to that particular agent. Once they get the money, they close shop. That's why we have cases where a child dies in the Middle East, and there's no connection at all. You don't even know about it. We have a case, you remember, recently where somebody died and has been in the mortuary for almost 8 months because there was no information. So I think you do more than, I want to just request you, go down and more than what you have done. And then saying we're going to do this, and
she hasn't done anything. She's not in the office yet.
This is, I mean, the way she's telling us is that's what she's going to do.
Yes.
And I'm simply saying you should do much more than that in case you're going to be a minister.
Excellent. That is just a comment. So you'll not spend time on it. Next.
Thank
you, Fernand, for that good comment.
Yes.
I'm sure she's noted.
Thank you, Chair. Nominee, minimum wage in Kenya.
Isn't that what Mary has been asking?
No, my question is totally different.
Yes.
Minimum wage in Kenya is 15,120. It is arrived at by agreement between the government and trade unions.
It's tripartite.
And then usually it is the government, the workers' unions,
and the employer.
FKE. So that the government possibly appears through FKE, but it is arrived at, settled, and it governs what the other workers would actually get incrementally. Yes, I get the word now. My question is this: how do you propose to work with some of the trade unions and their officials when we know for sure that they have abandoned workers to pursue parochial political interests?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want the nominee, congratulations first. Mheshimiwa Mary has told you about the old people and the PWDs. There is an issue of registration, late registration for old people, but the main issue is even the ones who are registered, they have to come and stay 1 or 2 days while accessing their money from either the bank or wherever they are supposed to be collecting. And sometimes it has even happened that for 3-4 months they do not get, and they're told maybe it's got lost in the system, it will come, and it never comes. So how are you going to handle it so that they do not have to come on borders, old people, you can see them, PWDs, and it's very difficult for them. So registration of PWDs and old people as well, please. It should be hurried up.
Mishi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also just to add on what Daud and Emas have just said, Honorable Bor, you also need to ensure that you put measure to curb corruption on the issue of cash transfer programs. My question is on the people with disability, noting that persons living with disability have been overlooked in terms of education, the labor force, and general social life. What affirmative action plans and even measures in terms of mainstreaming do you have for them? We have seen most of people with disability are just in the informal sector in terms of job opportunities, and few of them are in the white-collar jobs. These are the people where we need to put some measures in terms of employing some principle of equity to ensure that they are also catered in terms of this. Thank you.
Florence, can you answer those? You can assign a minute to each. They are very clear questions.
Thank you, Chair. Question by Honorable Maria Masse.
She asked three.
She asked three, yes. One of them was on the fund at NSSF, that currently it has about 280 billion. That is the accumulated value that they have currently. And I think she was asking how safe that fund is. Kindly come up again.
Microphone.
I said that they have a product called Haba Haba, where you contribute 25 shillings per day, and if you do that continuously for 5 years, you can actually be given half of that money to refinance your business. How do you intend to improve on that product?
Thank you. I don't have information on that, Haba Haba. I will ask for that information once approved and be able to look at what intentions they have. And if they are saving for that long, for 25 years, the 25 shillings per day for 5 years to be able to start businesses, I don't know how viable it is to take that long to be able to start a business. I thought the business is started as they contribute to be able to help them grow. You've asked a question on Inua Jamii, the challenges that are there. I want to agree, and I think I'll tie this question to the question that has been asked by Honorable Dawood and Honorable Mishi. I agree there is a problem with the cash transfer to the elderly. And when I asked about it, the answer that I was given is that the fund is not enough, so it cannot cut across all the over 70 years old. Not all of them are getting. So I'll be lobbying for more funding to ensure that these beneficiaries are able to get the stipend and ensure that they get on time, and also ensure that we clean up the database of these beneficiaries. We could be having ghost beneficiaries. We could be having the wrong people, the money going to the wrong hands. And I'm told some of the payments that are paid are usually paid through the bank, to ensure that if there are deaths in that population, the money is refunded back to the ministry and may be given to other beneficiaries. On that, I want to agree with you. I've been in Parliament. Every time you'd go to a function, the elderly will come and tell you, so and so is getting, and me, I'm not getting. There should be equity, and we ensure that everyone gets that is over 70 years. I know the current budget that is needed extra, I'm told, is about 10 billion to be able to cover everyone. Then that also ties to the National Social Security Fund, that in future we want to increase the contributions to NSSF to have a better retirement benefits, so that we don't have the stipends. We reduce on the stipends that the government has to pay to the overage. So for us, where we are, we start contributions, the mandatory ones, to NSSF to ensure that we have better savings and we don't continue with the social security fund, so social protection stipends that we give out. There was a question by Honorable Emase on duplication by counties. I'm also not aware about that, where counties are also doing the same for the elderly. I know even as a woman rep, I was able to do that. I was targeting those vulnerable category to be able to support them.
What is she saying,
yes,
which makes a lot of sense, is
yes,
whether you are a woman rep, the money is not yours, it's from the government. Whether it's NSSF, whether it is central government, whether it is CDF, whatever, it's all public money. How can you harmonize so that we don't engage in duplex payments? That's what you are saying.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I get you. I get you.
That is what I meant.
Yes.
I think we need to have a proper system and proper data so that we don't target the same.
Flores,
yes,
that is not enough. You are the minister.
Yes.
If we confirm you,
yes,
what are you going to do to stop duplex payments and therefore wastage? That's what Mary
we
wants
can
to know
match
from
them
you.
And have one line so that we also use only one fund and we don't duplicate the rules. And I request that you confirm me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. So you know what this, you remember I told you they are looking at your suitability to hold this office. So you'll embrace them better if you appear to have solutions to the issues that they are raising. If 5 different agencies of government drawing money from the same source are paying, some paying even the same people, what policies will you put in place to stop this wastage so that this money can go to do something else for the betterment of our society? Isn't that so, Junet?
Yes, sir. You have put it in a proper manner, your chairman.
And Chair, I also want to promise that we'll work together with the committees that are involved. The Committee of Labor will work with you to be able to streamline. It is not a one person's job. We will do together so that we serve Kenyans well.
Ferdinand, I think, just gave you direction on what he wants you to do.
Let me appreciate. I think he was also adding on a point on what we should do. And I want to appreciate what you have said. We will do more. We will still discuss and see how we can streamline the issue of the Gulf region.
I have a cousin suffering. We don't even know where she is. 8 months down the line.
You already said that, Ferdinand. Go to the next question.
Honorable Murungara asked about the minimum wage bill of 15,120, that we need to sit down and agree on the increment. Am I right? That is what you wanted me to address. Okay. We'll sit down and agree with them. And I also want to admit that we have a wage council that has already been approved, but it is not operational. I will ensure that it works to be able to address the issue of wages across the country and across the workers.
He also asked you about trade unionists using workers' money to play parochial politics. Isn't that what you asked?
That's exactly what I was looking
at. Yes.
Yes, Chair. I also wanted to add regarding the same. What is she going to do to protect our workers from that cartel from Kotu?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Chair. I've had the request by Honorable Murungara and Honorable Mokami. It's addressing the issue of these unions misusing the money for the workers, the contributions that they make, and workers need to be protected. And I want to promise that I will stop that, ensure that that money that the workers contribute goes to their welfare, goes to helping them, but not for a few individuals to enrich themselves. Thank you.
Daud, did you ask a question? Yes. Daud and Mishi?
The
PWD's registration and that.
Yeah, we will also streamline the issue of PWDs, ensure that they also get their stipends.
No, it's not just the stipends.
Yes.
There is a problem in registering new PWDs so that they can get cards, so that they can get services from the government. There is that issue.
I met the chair of the PWD's council, and he assured me that there is a new card that has been developed to be able to help the PWDs. So they will do away with the current cards. They have now better cards to serve them well, and also address their issues in employment and be able to have the tax-free benefits.
Speaker, I'm not satisfied.
Honorable Mishi has talked about the corruption. I'm coming to your question, Honorable Mishi. You asked about curbing corruption in social security, in social protection, in the stipends that are given out. And I've said I will clean the system and ensure we have a clean system, we have the right beneficiaries, and they go to the right people. And I think we'll be working with the Ministry of Interior so that we are able to get the information from the ground to the chief so that we get the correct beneficiaries. We'll work with the government institutions to ensure that we have the right people.
In fact, Florence, you'll find that there are people, even probably in your own village, who retired 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yes.
And they're still carrying around papers now. They have even been discolored. You don't know what color they were. Looking for their pension. They come to Nairobi, they come to the MP's office, they go to everywhere they can meet somebody they know. They go to NSSF, they can't even enter the building. And they made their contributions. This is one of the things that you must address. Probably even decentralized payment of those benefits to the counties.
Correct.
So that people access their pensions from the nearest point possible.
Chair, I want to agree with you.
Because, Chair, sometimes what happens?
Yes.
What that pensioner is looking for gets finished with the transport money that he comes to Nairobi with and goes back. By the time he spends the transport money from Bungoma to Nairobi and goes back, the money he was looking for is less than that.
Yes, exactly.
He spends more.
I agree with you, Chair. I agree with the honorable members. There's a problem there. NSSF take the contributions, but when it comes to payment of the benefits, it becomes a nightmare. I even saw their automation system. Their automation system is only on registration of members. But when it comes to the payment of benefits to the members, the process stops. I will want to streamline that. Let our public, let the beneficiaries get the benefits, even on phone. What is hard in doing that? I'm ready to do that. Thank you.
Maisula?
An intervention on the NSSF.
Okay.
And it's about, there was a suggestion, maybe the nominee can, that if we continue allowing NSSF to collect, they are the ones in charge of collection, they are the ones of saving, they are the ones of, releasing the money to the, why don't you separate? Maybe NSSF can collect, another body can be able now to deal with paying the pensioners instead of the same people, because they are the same people who bring a lot of bureaucracy within that place.
Naisula, you can combine that with the Naisula and Caleb.
That one was not mine. Yeah, that was an intervention.
You have had your bite.
Speaker, our questions are not answered.
Chair.
Yes.
You are my friend. Let me ask mine. This is just simple. One is about child labor.
Okay.
Honorable Chair, You come to the urban areas, you'll be very surprised. Or you go to the sand places or just almost everywhere. Children, minors, are the ones who are working and getting paid. And to an effect, these children don't go to school. So what is the nominee going to do to address aspects of child labor? And about the domestic workers, which are these countries which are notorious? Not every Arab country maybe is notorious. Maybe you need to tell us which are these Arabic countries, which are the UAE countries which are notorious on matters to do with the domestic, like in Dubai, we've never had those kind of issues. I'm just saying. So maybe from you, what have you learned, and which are these countries that have this effect? Thank you.
Isula.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to say that the nominee completed her full term in Budget Committee. Maybe Honorable Ishungwa should ask for some lessons. Now, this is just a comment and maybe an advice on this issue of our ladies and girls in the Middle East. The bigger question is, where are they going? You know? So they see the suffering, they see a lady has come back in a, as dead, and they are still going. And so as a policy maker and with your colleagues, if this committee approves you, you have to really think of on the issue of unemployment. And I think we've asked that question to almost every nominee at a policy level, how you're going to look at the issue of unemployment in this country, because it's not just enough to have these conversations and our ladies and girls continue to go every other day. On the same matter, in your ministry, and this is just a comment, you need to relook at the people at your ministry and their relationship with the agents. You know, it was ridiculous the other day to see an agent now making the ladies to be the villains instead of the victims. And they take high commissions from them and now say, but they're the ones who go and stay with their boyfriends and things like that. So you have to look at also those who want to go directly, and they are not allowed to get even the paperwork is so difficult unless you go through an agent. And so this is a very serious issue that we have to look at. But to my question now, growing up, Kenya used to do so well in terms, especially on one front, where our labor force was so competitive, it was professional, and especially in one of the service industry, that was tourism. You know, we were known across the region, but we can slowly see that it's going down. I need to know what steps you will take to ensure that our standards are raised, because you know tourism is one of our greatest foreign exchange earner. How do we take our competitiveness to where we were known in the region and even internationally?
Those, Florence?
Chair, I was to...
Oh, I miss you, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Florence, you were in Parliament, and remember we passed the Employment Amendment Act of 2022. And one of the jobless youths out here sent me something. Clearance and the pre-employment offer certificates requirements were abolished, as well as the requirement for payment of such certificates on the Amendment of Employment Act of 2007. This means HELB, police clearance, CRB certificates should be issued free of charge and within 7 days from the application request, and only after an offer of employment has been guaranteed. 6 months later, DCI and the several CRBs from Metropolis, Credit Info, TransUnion are still levying fees like the law never came in effect after 23rd of April. There are also long as than 7 days delays in issuance of such certificates. This is always a problem of us passing laws that are never implemented. This is a law that is existing, acts, statutes that are never implemented. Now you are going there. You pass the law yourself. You are going there. These youths who are listening, are you facing them in the eye and tell them you are going to do something different, that from the time you take over, such complaints are not going to come to us? Just face the youth of the country and tell them that you are going to take over. And this issue of, allow me, Chair, because I was in the Committee of Labour last Parliament, and we tackled this issue of our girls dying in Arabian Peninsula, Gulf countries. There are cartels, part of the ministries are doing business. Don't don't just assume or cover up. Go and handle the cartels and you'll solve these issues. They are the top officials who are doing the business.
Chair, just, I'll be very brief with your indulgence. 1 minute. I've just heard you say that again you will change the cards for people living with disability. There was a time it was done also for the elderly. We have to have efficiency once and for all. And you know, even as you do it, the community members, by the time they don't get it, it's such a tedious process. And then every time we go to the constituency, we're being asked, but I did this, and you're not efficient. How will you make sure that there is efficiency in the ministry on this monies, the cash transfer, once and for all?
Florence, you can answer those. Some are comments, you appreciate them.
Yes.
Or disagree with them. Others are questions, you answer them.
I think we started with Honorable Naisula.
Yes.
Her question was on what is going on, the policy on migrant workers. That possibly, there's a policy, there's a bill actually, on migrant workers management bill that has been drafted. It is currently at the AG's office that needs to have some legal drafting before it comes to Parliament. So let's work together with the committee in Parliament to be able to have this bill, to be able to streamline all those issues that we are talking about, to be able to fill in the gaps that we have on the migrant workers. And I know we'll be able to sort out those issues that the members have spoken to. The other question that came up, I hope I will not jump. If I jump, let me know, is the one by Honorable Gikaria. He's talked about child labor. I want to say we will strengthen supervision of children that, you know, in the counties, we make use of the children officers to ensure that we don't have child labor. And we'll work with you as area MPs, identify those areas where we have child labor being practiced. If it is in the sand harvesting areas, we ensure that our officers go there and ensure that these children go to school. We'll also work with the Ministry of Interior and the county governments to ensure that that problem is eradicated. Question by Honorable Kalib Amisi on the Employment Act 2022. Thank you that you have passed that act. Mine is to implement, to ensure that the youths of our country are able to get the clearance free of charge so that they are not made to pay. I will ensure that that is implemented. Thank you for that information.
I asked about our labor force and its competitiveness.
In the hospitality industry, you said, and Gikaria's child labor issue?
I've addressed that one of Honorable Gikaria.
Okay.
What is not addressed is about the notorious countries.
Oh yes, on the notorious countries, I think we have an issue with
Let me help you, Florence.
Yes.
You know, you should approach it this way, if we confirm you. We have 300,000 Kenyans in Tanzania working and living. They have no challenges. We have close to 500,000 Kenyans in the UK working and living. And in this country today, our diaspora is giving us more foreign exchange than any other undertaking, including those girls in Saudi Arabia. This problem that we're having now should not be rushed through condemnation and roadside statements. You need, if we confirm you and you get into the office, your counterpart from Foreign Affairs told us if we confirm him, the next day he'll be on a flight to Saudi Arabia. Then we have you here carrying the same plate. Philippines has over 2 million domestic workers in the Arabian Peninsula. And they contribute immensely to their GDP. So instead of bastardizing the process, you need to have a collective team of yourself, Foreign Affairs, and any other agents of government that's involved, and engage bilaterally. Why are our girls dying in Saudi Arabia and not in UAE or not Oman or not in Kuwait? Those are the issues you need to address. Because if you just rush in, condemn, make declarations, you'll do the wrong thing. Because these girls leave this country because there are no jobs. They earn a living to sustain their parents. Most of them are single mothers, sustain their children. Now a problem has arisen. Do you solve it by condemning, or you solve it by looking at the root cause to deal with it? That's my advice to you. If we confirm you, it should be your first item on agenda. Don't just jump on a plane to go. Have serious consultations internally. These so-called agents, who license them? How many are they? How do they recruit these girls? How many centers in Saudi Arabia? We have big towns, Dammam, we have Riyadh, we have all those towns, Jeddah. Do you have labor attaches in those towns who can keep the records of these girls, know where they work, who they work for, and regularly check on their welfare? These are the things you'd look at, because we are condemning more than providing solutions, and it's not helpful. Yes, Junet.
Chair, just to add on what you said, Chair. Look at, Chair, the last 3 years, what has sustained this economy so much is the remittances from the diaspora. And that is the reason why in the Azimio manifesto and even the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, there is diaspora affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and diaspora issues, because they have realized the importance the diaspora is playing in our economy. Look, the public service now, where everyone looks for a job when they finish university, can only employ 1 million people maximum. But only, you've just quoted here, Saudi Arabia only alone employs 210,000 people. So if you include the other parts of the Arabian Peninsula, the way the speaker said, you may be talking about 600,000-700,000 people. If all those people were to come back to Kenya, do you think it will be catastrophic? Don't you think, it will be catastrophic? So we need to get a proper solution to this problem. As the speaker said, not only condemnation, we condemn the heinous act that's happening there, but on the other side, we have to get a permanent solution to that problem. And the solution is the way the speaker is advising.
Speaker, if I may add.
Yes.
I think, Speaker, I wanted to raise on a point of order. I think 85 or 95. I think you have concluded this matter, Speaker. You have really summarized. And that's a vision for the nominee. She only praised that the House confirms her. And of course, Speaker, your House, which is Parliament, established the committee in charge of diaspora issues, which means Parliament has taken this issue very critically, and then now they can link with the Minister. Don't you think, Speaker, you have summarized and we can move forward?
Yeah. Yes, I wanted to add you, Speaker, on what you just said, and it's quite a very important point. That's why we are deliberating on. Most of the time, because we dealt with these matters when I was in the Committee of Labor, our girls go there innocently through the normal channels, whether it's government, but they find other lucrative work that we cannot mention here. So you must pursue it in depth. Don't just look at it from the face value. In Philippines, the reason why they succeeded, because they have unified the program where it is through the government only, not the agents. Because most businesses start through this unscrupulous business, because it becomes more lucrative to look for other work but not the work that was sent there for. So the agents may be innocent.
Thank you. Florence?
Chair, let me just ask.
Yes, Mukami?
Regarding the social. We have so many elderly people in our villages, and they are living in a pathetic condition. Do you have any plans to do maybe elderly homes for them and for our youth who are really drinking?
Thank you, Chair. Let me appreciate. You've actually summed it up, and I know this is an emotive issue, the issue of the migrant workers in the Gulf region. Of course, I've heard the presentations from the various sectors, NEA, NITA, but at the back of my mind, I have a feeling people want to protect their jobs, they want to protect the status quo, but I want to promise this House, this committee, that I'm up to the task. I'll get to the bottom of this and ensure that this problem of migrant workers come to a stop. You've clearly said about Philippines. Philippines are doing very well because they have systems that are working and they protect their workers. And I promise to be able to review the bilateral labor agreements with these countries. And we cannot just blankly say we stop the movement of these workers. We already have several that are there that we need to protect and ensure they are living well and having good working conditions. Thank you. There's a question that I've just been asked. Maybe it is a thought by Honorable Mukami on how we can help the elderly. The stipends that we have are even too little. I don't even think the 2,000 shillings that we give them per month is enough. And we are struggling with that stipend. So before we even go to the safe houses, maybe we look for organizations that we can bring on board to support the church organizations. I think the Catholic have a safe home for the elderly. We can encourage them, we partner with them, we work with them, and see how we can improve that lot. And also have the county governments come in and see how we can support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence. I think we have
So,
come
Honorable
to
Speaker, I want to ask.
Mishimbogo.
Honorable Speaker, I was just asking, are these countries from the Gulf not part of International Labour Organization, so that maybe we can take those grievances in the higher level, international level forums?
Mishi, most of the issues are bilateral, actually. So we don't need to go to ILO. They're bilateral. And Saudi has an embassy here. Kenya has an embassy in Saudi. So it's quite easy, Florence and other government ministries and agencies to deal with this matter. Bring our engagement with Florence to an end. We have served about 8 minutes, but you'll consume 3 of them to tell us your final testament.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members, for giving this opportunity to come before you. I want to appreciate the role that you have played. It is a process that I really appreciate. Coming last, I was able to see my colleagues, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you have done. I want us to encourage ourselves that we serve our country, we serve our citizens, and I promise to do my very best. And I want to lastly thank His Excellency the President for giving me this opportunity as a nominee for as a Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. I look forward with working with you, with working with the National Assembly, the Senate, and other arms of government in addressing the issues of Kenyans. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Florence. We now discharge you and release you to go to your other duties. Sergeant, you can show the nominee the way to and Sergeant, once you're done, Florence, there are things that you can sort out with the clerk's office. Sergeant, our next engagement is with Mercy Kiru Wanjau. Kimani.
Na mtazamaji, Florence Bore anaondoka mbele ya kamati ya uteuzi ya bunge ambayo ndio imepewa jukumu la kupiga msasa ama kuwapiga msasa wale mawaziri walioteuliwa kujaza baraza la mawaziri lake Rais Dr. William Ruto. Na kwake Florence amezongwa na maswali mengi, wabunge hapo wakiuliza maswala yanayofungamana na ajira za ughaibuni, vile vile zile pesa za wazee pamoja na ajira kwa vijana, ambapo wengi wao wamesemekana kukosa kazi kwenye taasisi mbalimbali za serikali. Na kuna swala ambalo amelizungumzia Florence hapo kuhusu ajira hizi za vijana, akisema kwamba watashirikiana na taasisi ya NITA, ambapo vijana wengi wanapojaribu kutafuta ajira kwenye afisi mbalimbali basi husemekana hawana uzoefu wa kutosha. Lakini amejitetea akasema kwamba kunayo taasisi ya NITA ambayo inaweza kutoa mafunzo ama nafasi tu za kujifundisha hizi kazi ama kujizoesha katika ajira ama masomo ama taaluma walizosomea, kiasi cha kwamba kitawapatia uzoefu wa kutosha wa kuweza kutafuta ajira kwenye afisi mbalimbali ambazo huwa mara nyingi zinatafuta watu walio na uzoefu fulani ama waajiriwa walio na uzoefu wa miaka fulani. Kwa hivyo amesema atajaribu kushughulikia swala hilo kwa kuungana na taasisi ya NITA kuweza kutoa mafunzo kwa vijana wengi wanaotoka kwenye vyuo vikuu ama kwenye taasisi za mafunzo mbalimbali na ambao bado hawajaajiriwa kwa kukosa uzoefu wa kutosha ama miaka ya kutosha ya kufanya kazi. Vile vile kuna swala la pesa za uzeeni ama fedha hizi ambazo zinatolewa kwa wazee, wabunge hapa wakiibua swala la kwamba wazee wengi huenda kawa hawapati pesa hizo, na pia hakujakuwa na usajili mpya wa wazee wanaostahili kupata hizi pesa. Kumbuka ni pesa za wazee ama pia kuna zile zingine ambazo ni za wale watu walio na ulemavu, wakidai kwamba kwa muda mrefu kumekuwa hakuna usajili ambao unaendelea, na amesema kwamba ni swala pia atakalolishughulikia. Lakini mapumziko tu mafupi, Florence Bore akiondoka hapo, ni kwamba anayeingia sasa kikangoni ni Mercy Wanjau ambaye ameteuliwa kuwa katibu katika baraza la mawaziri. Mercy Wanjau ndiye ambaye anaingia kwenye chumba hicho. Kwa sasa ndio huyo anakaribishwa kwenye chumba hiki, afike mbele ya kamati, aeleze uwezo wake, aeleze maarifa yake na aeleze ufafu wake wa kuchukua kiti hiki cha kuwa katibu katika baraza la mawaziri. Kama unavyoona, huyo ni Mercy Wanjau na tayari ameshafika, na kama ilivyo kawaida ataelekezwa kuchukua kiapo chake. Mercy alikuwa mkurugenzi mkuu kwenye halmashauri ya mawasiliano nchini CA, na kwa sasa ameteuliwa kuingia kama katibu kwenye baraza la mawaziri la serikali yake Rais William Ruto, na kupeleka kwa moja kwa matangazo haya. Mimi ni Kamchemenza.
You are Mercy Kiru Wanjau. Use the microphone.
Yes, Honorable Chairman.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
You are aware you have been nominated by His Excellency the President?
Yes, I am.
To the position of Secretary to the Cabinet.
Yes, Honorable Chairman.
Under Article 154 of the Constitution, you are one of the nominees by the President that will require this committee of Parliament of the National Assembly to engage you and establish your suitability for the job and recommend for you to have the job or otherwise.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So you are welcome to the committee. We are going to have a short brief with you. I'm sure you have been watching our engagement with the cabinet nominees.
Yes, I have.
You are not a cabinet nominee. You are a secretary of the cabinet. So your role is pigeonholed and limited. So
Yes.
we are going to start by administering an oath from the clerk. If you are Christian, you can take the Bible. If you are Muslim, the Quran is also available.
I, Mercy Keiro Wanjao, do hereby swear to testify on all matters in question, to tell this committee the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Yes, Mercy. This committee is chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly. That is myself. I will invite members to introduce themselves, starting with the Majority Leader.
My name is Kimani Shongwa, MP Kikuyu.
My name is Opio Wandai, MP Ugunja.
My name is Junet Mohammed, MP Crystallized.
My name is Owen Baya, MP Kilifi North.
Yeah, I'm Robert Mbui, MP for Kadhiani.
Lehab Mukami, County MP Nyeri.
Ferdinand Kevin Wanyonyi, Member of Parliament Kwanza, Trans Nzoia County.
George Gitonga Murugara, MP Tharaka, Tharaka Nithi.
David Kosing, my name, MP Pokot South, West Pokot County.
Abdul Rahim Daud, MP for North Imenti, Meru County, and I'm told you're born in my county.
Mishimboko, MP Likoni.
Good afternoon, Caleb Amisi, MP Sabot.
Abdishuri, MP Balambala.
Emase Mary, MP Teso South.
Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West.
Thank you. We have the Clerk of the National Assembly and her team.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Sarah Kioko, the Acting Clerk of the National Assembly, and I have with me the Director, Audit, Appropriation, and other select committees, Ms. Florence Abonyo, and the Deputy Director, Legal Services, Mr. Michael Karuru, and other staff of Parliament assisting this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mercy. This committee will have a short engagement with you. As I said, being given the limited nature of what your portfolio entails. But before that, we'll ask you a few questions. Do you have your tax compliance certificate?
Yes, I do, Honorable Chair.
Do you have your Higher Education Loans Board clearance?
Yes, I do.
Do you have your clearance from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission?
Yes, I do.
Do you have the Certificate of Good Conduct from DCI?
Yes, I do.
Have you ever been charged in a court of law and convicted of any criminal offense?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Are you a dual citizenship of Kenya and any other sovereign?
No, I'm not.
At a personal level, what is your financial net worth?
My financial net worth, as disclosed in Part 25, is 475,400,000, and this is comprised as follows: land and buildings at about 380.4, shares, stocks and deposits at about 89 million, agriculture in the form of largely commercial farming of trees at about 6 million, and motor vehicles, 4 motor vehicles, about 2 million, 3 million shillings. That is all, Mr. Chair.
Your national ID?
Yes, I do.
You'll...
Chair, if you don't mind, she repeats that again.
Can you tabulate your wealth again?
Okay. It's 475,400,000, and this is comprised of land and buildings at about 380.4 million, shares, stocks and deposits at about 89 million, agriculture 6 million. I also own 4 vehicles. These are all in joint property. The 4 vehicles are valued at about 3-4 million. They're fairly old vehicles. They're not new.
For the chair. Breakdown of the land and buildings, Chair.
Pardon me?
A breakdown of the land and buildings.
Okay. So at the land and buildings, I own these properties in community of property. I am married. And these properties are in Nairobi, where we own some apartments and the home that we live in Nanyuki, Malindi. We also have an apartment in South Africa, in Johannesburg.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes.
Chair, she has, in 25, she has put it as approximately 188,500,000. Now she's giving us different figures. So what should we believe now? What she has put on her, the CV we've got in front of us.
Mercy, you just took a note to say nothing but the truth.
Yes, I can clarify that. I'm surprised that that document was circulated, because what I had done is to initially provide it at 50% adjusted for debt, and subsequently, on speaking to my accountant, I was guided that based on the requirement for net worth, to provide information based on market realizable value. So whereas previously I had disclosed based on purchase price, the adjustment therefore moved upwards on the assumption that the property was being sold. Now, I did call the chambers. I indicated that I wished to make the adjustment, and I provided the adjusted document based on that information. So this new document is what I had expected to be circulated to the members.
You spoke to our clerks?
Yes, I called and I spoke to Florence, Madam Florence, and this is the document that I had expected to be circulated.
But even as we look for the real document, you say you had put this figure at half the value.
And adjusted for debt.
But even if multiplied by 2, this one still comes to below 400 million.
Yes, because I had adjusted for debt.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Daud.
The figure 470 or whatever she's quoting, has it been adjusted for debt as well? Because that remains there. The liability is a liability.
Yes.
Even if you adjust for market price,
yes.
Have you already adjusted for the liability?
So I was advised not to go to that level. Just give the market realizable value, and that should be okay, because in the event that you sell something, then...
Could you probably give us how much the liabilities are then?
Oh, I see. So on account of land and buildings, we do hold quite an amount of significant debt in the region of about 70 million, but this has been paid over time. So when you factor that in, you're able to see how that adjustment comes down.
Chair, you see... Chair.
Yes,
No, Chair, I thought this matter should have been very easier than this, because what she should have provided is her, what she owns, the market value minus her liabilities, and that's what is called net worth.
Yes.
So net worth, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why she's turning this place to an accounting firm. I thought, like the other predecessor, like the other nominees who appeared before, you come with what you own. This is, I own 1 billion. There was even 4 billion here. So 4 billion. Then remove what you owe people, the banks and the SACCOs and everything. Then you say my net worth is 300 million shillings or 120 million.
Exactly.
Yes.
Mercy, that's what I expect. You have 200 million in asset and cash. You have a mortgage of 50. So your net worth is 150. It's so simple. That's what this committee expects. You know that all those rigmaroles will not be very helpful. But
Indeed.
We'll make progress if we need further. They will ask you on your wealth when we open up.
Okay.
In the course of this engagement, Mercy, this is not an adversarial engagement. I can see you're a lawyer, I'm sure you know what I mean.
Yes.
It's a conversation for this committee to assess your suitability to occupy a sensitive office called Secretary to the Cabinet, an office that is extremely sensitive in the operations of any country. So for us to make good progress, I'll give you 5 minutes to tell us the story of your life up to where you are. Then thereafter, I'll open the floor for members to ask you some questions or make some comments about what you are going to walk into in case we approve your nomination.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chairman and members, for this opportunity to present myself to this distinguished committee. Let me first start off by expressing my profound gratitude to His Excellency the President for nominating me to the office of Secretary to the Cabinet. This is indeed a life opportunity for me, for which I'm profoundly grateful. It is a great honor. Mr. Chairman and members, I am a first born of 4 siblings, and I was born in Kovo in Imenti South, Meru County. And the reason for that was because my father, the late Geoffrey Keiro Wanjohi, was one of the first early graduates of University of Nairobi, and he had just been sent on his first posting as the first African headmaster at Nkubu High School. As a result of his career movement, our family tended to move around Kenya quite a lot. And growing up, I ended up living within 7 counties of this country. I am married with 2 teenage daughters. This experience, as you can imagine, in my early years, comprised of quite a lot of moving around, making new friends and saying goodbye almost every 2 years of my school life. And this allowed me an opportunity to embrace Kenyans of all walks of life and to develop values of social justice, faith, resilience, and determination. I started my primary school life in Nanyuki and completed my standard 8 at Thika Memorial Church School in Kiambu County, in between having moved through a number of schools. In 1989, I went to Gandu Girls High School in Nyeri County, and upon completion of my Form 4, proceeded to University of Nairobi for a Bachelor of Laws degree, upon which I went to the Kenya School of Law for a diploma in law. So I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, 1997. That marked the beginning of my professional life with Muthoga Gaturu and Company, and after a year I progressed to South Africa for my postgraduate degree, and I earned a master's in advanced corporate law and tax from the University of Cape Town. I happened to be in South Africa barely 4 years after its gaining independence, so I was a beneficiary of the black equity employment, which was availed irrespective of citizenship, so long as one was black. And that allowed me to spend a lot of time and work with KPMG in Cape Town, where I was involved in the demutualization of Old Mutual and the subsequent listing on the London Stock Exchange. Upon completion of my postgraduate studies, I came back to Nairobi, went again briefly into legal practice with Kirundi and Company, and then moved to PricewaterhouseCoopers in the tax department. That marked the end of my private sector career as I went into the regulator, the Communications Commission of Kenya, in 2001, and have had 22 illustrious years in the public service. During these 22 years, a lot happened, and if you will allow me, I will just go through some significant events. In 2005, I had the opportunity to proceed on international secondment to the UN in Geneva, and I spent some time there with the International Telecommunications Union as a regulatory expert. And the output of that was a toolkit that was designed to build capacity for regulatory staff globally, because the ICT sector was globalizing and growing very big, very fast, and there was the need to boost skills. This was a UN World Bank InfoDev project. Upon completion of this project, I did come back, and in 2006, I was nominated as the Kenya Fellow for the Eisenhower Fellowship, and I proceeded to the United States on a fellowship for international development. This allowed me to see what possibilities could lie if one exerted themselves to unlock policy possibilities. Upon return from the fellowship, I continued with my work, which involved policy and legislative reform, and I was engaged in developing draft policies and regulatory frameworks, which have formed the bedrock of the successful ICT sector in Kenya as we know it today. In 2018, I had the opportunity to chair the National Task Force for the policy for data protection in this country, and the output is the creation of the Data Protection Office that we know today, which is currently operational for about 2 years. While within the public sector, I rose, and the highest role that I performed was the Acting Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya for 2 years, until a substantive Director General was appointed. As we speak, I serve as the Director of Legal Affairs and the Board Secretary. During my tenure as Acting Director General, Chair, I would mention that barely 6 months had passed when the COVID pandemic hit the world, and I therefore became a leader in a time of crisis. And as they say, never waste a crisis. And this marked an opportunity for me, for the ICT sector, to score certain successes for this country. COVID was a time of great destabilization, and one of the successes was the utilization of resources available in this country to enable economic stabilization, because in 24 hours, the economy moved from the office to the house. Learning moved from the school to the house. And this availed us an opportunity to discuss with the sector on how best we could enable them to carry the extended traffic over that period. And Mr. Chairman, it turned out that Kenya was the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to issue regulatory directives that enabled that support, and this was recognized by the United Nations. I also had a chance to chair the COVID-19 ICT Advisory Committee. This was a committee that tried to utilize ICT innovations for COVID, and I'm proud to say that out of the about 700 innovations that were tabled before us, 85 were identified and were utilized for contact tracing and other health measures within this country. From a people perspective, given the circumstance of the day...
One more minute.
That's in order. Given the safety consequences of the day, a lot of time was spent to provide safety and security. Mr. Chairman, I do recognize the great weight, as you have mentioned, that this role carries. I recognize the high level of accountability that it comes with, and indeed, I do hope that this exposure, this background, makes me a suitable fit for this role if appointed to the role. Indeed, as I close, I wish to indicate that I resonate deeply with an economic transformation agenda that recognizes that when the tide rises, it rises for all. Indeed, the tide should rise for all. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll now open up to the committee. I'll start with the majority leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Maybe just from where the nominee stopped, that indeed the tide should rise. I was just going to add from the bottom up for all. And I pray that you believe in that.
Yes, I do.
I just want to draw your attention to number 23 on the sources of income. You have indicated the Communications Authority of Kenya gross salary of 25.4 million. Is that an annual 2-year income? Because there is something that says 2-year income there.
Yes, just above it says 2-year, because we are told to list all income received during the calendar year preceding your nomination and in the current calendar year.
So that's for 24 months?
Yes, 24 months.
24 months?
Yes.
Meaning you are earning an average of about 1.58 million shillings gross.
Or thereabout, yes.
And the job you're taking up, you know the gross pay?
Yes, I do.
Is it above or below this?
It is below.
And you're willing to take above a pay cut when everybody in the country is now looking for a pay rise?
I would wish to respond to that. Indeed, over
maybe just note.
Okay.
Just
you'll
note.
be asked about
The question is why you would be willing to take a pay cut. What is the motivation that is motivating you to take a pay cut? 2, in your listed assets, you have said you have land and buildings to the amount of about 380 million shillings, and you've said you own a home in Nairobi.
Yes.
Maybe you disclose where this home is in Nairobi, whether it is at Afralty, and whether you own any property that is formerly at Afralty. And I think for me that will be all. Besides, you've been a company secretary, so you could be well positioned to take minutes of cabinet meetings, being secretary to the cabinet. But as you take minutes in cabinet, would you know where Teso South is, in which county it is? Maybe there's something to do with Teso South. Would you know where Teso South is in the Republic of Kenya, in which county, which part of Kenya?
Yes, just to pick it up from where...
Mercy, you'll take 4,
to pick
then
it,
I allow
yes.
you to answer.
I realize that you are in acting capacity for close to 2 years as DG of Communications Authority of Kenya. I remember around 2019, there was serious turbulence in the boardroom of this organization when the then DG or chairman was leaving, one Francis Wangusi. It was DG. It was DG. Yeah, DG. Yes, DG. And in fact, at some point, the court intervened to even revoke your appointment in acting capacity. So there was too much turmoil. Could you have been the cause of this turmoil? And if it is true, would you be tempted to transfer such possible threats to the public service, mainstream public service? I also realize that you are largely in parastatal. Of course, you have never been in the mainstream civil service as we know it. Those who join as DOs rise to DCs and so on and so forth, PSS. So your experience in the mainstream civil service could be limited. How are you equipped to execute this new mandate that is at the heart of the public service? Thank you.
Yes, Junet.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I wanted to ask only one question. which is the nominee was the secretary of the Communications Authority. Now, as the Corporation Secretary and also as the Acting Director General for the Communications Authority of Kenya, what is your position on the installation of the Device Management System, DMS, that is largely believed to be a surveillance tool on mobile phone networks in the country?
Yes, Owen.
Just a quick question, nominee. Looking at your experience at the Communications Authority, you deal with a board that's not more than 10 people. And probably they are very homogeneous in thinking, and they are all probably sector players. You're going to be secretary to cabinet of 22 people, 24, very diverse, politicians, technocrats, everybody else there, high level of thinking and all kinds of manner. Low level, yes. How are you going to handle the diversity so that we can actually prepare a cabinet secretary to deliver their mandate? Thank you.
Mercy, can you answer those?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start off with the first question from Honorable Ichongwa on the motivation to take a pay cut. Why would I be willing to take a pay cut when many others are looking for a rise in price? Now, I recognize that I come from the from the parastatal world, the state corporation world, and that this presents different skills from the central government. But I have been in public service all these years, and this indeed represents a growth opportunity for me. Over the years, and given the kind of investments that we have made as a family, I am able to make the adjustment in order to take this role. Moving to the second question, to disclose the location.
Chair, point of clarification.
Yes, Junet.
Chair, now could we say that under this difficult economic situation in the world, and in Africa, and in Kenya, this is the only nominee in the world who is ready to take a pay cut in the spirit of service? Could we now qualify her like that, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mercy.
I believe this kind of move is not unusual. We have had these kind of cases, particularly where individuals have crossed from sectors that pay more than the public sector. So I think this is not really unusual, in my view. It is not unusual.
Tell him you have a buffer of 475 million.
Sure, I think if she's comfortable, that's what matters.
That's what I'm saying. Tell Junet you have a buffer of 475 million. Have a billion.
Okay. So,
Mercy.
okay, with your permission, I'll move to the second question, which was to disclose the location of the home. I own a home in Lavington on Kabasiran Avenue. And the question was attached to whether I have owned a property in Afralti. Afralti is one of the intergovernmental institutions that is affiliated with the Communications Authority of Kenya. So I do not own a property in Afralti. I own a property in Lavington on Kabasiran Avenue.
Maybe Chair, if Chair allows,
yes,
was that property at any one time part of the assets owned by Afralti?
No, it wasn't. It was part of the properties that were owned by Communications Authority of Kenya, properties that were disposed in a transparent process about maybe 10 years ago, and this was one of the properties.
So it is property that you own, that you bought from CA?
Yes.
CCK then?
CCK then.
At the time, were you working for CCK?
Yes.
At what level?
I was an assistant director.
How many of you bought those properties from the former CCK, and who financed the purchase of those properties?
I wouldn't speak for the others, but I'm aware.
I asked how many of the staff, former CCK staff,
yes,
purchased those properties, and for yourself,
yes,
of course, I don't expect you to speak for others, who financed, or how was it how was the purchase financed?
Okay. So these properties were about 5 in diverse locations in Nairobi, and for us to be able to purchase this property, we got financing from the Housing Finance Corporation of Kenya. So I'll move on to the next question, which was about Teso South, which county this is. I may not know exactly which county this is, but one thing I can assure you is that I have been up and down.
No, Chair, just on that issue of the Afrati, was the sale of CCK, was the sale was the sale supposed to be only for the people working for CCK, or for also people from outside could participate? Was it advertised? How was it? Give us a small preview of.
And even as you answer that, if you allow me, could you be aware that certain cadre of staff were locked out of this very lucrative scheme of purchasing these properties, and that some of you who are favored went ahead to put up properties, to develop properties within the facilities owned by Telecom Kenya or CCK? I'm sorry.
So maybe I can clarify the context. For these properties to be sold, they were valued by the Ministry of Lands and Housing then, and they were given a market value. And under the rules of disposal of properties then, the first right of refusal was granted to the occupant of the house. So I got this opportunity because I happened to be living in that house. I am aware that there are staff whose houses could not be disposed because of the location in which those houses were, so that some houses happened to be inside or in the middle of property or within the compound, such that to sell that house would mean subdividing the property in a manner that would really diminish the rest of the property in order to access those houses. And because of that, I am aware that there is 1 or 2 that could not be disposed because of that kind of impact that it would have on the rest of the land, but all others were disposed in that manner.
Chair.
Yes, Kimani.
So those who could not buy are the ones who are on the CCK side of Wayakiwe.
Yes.
Because Kabasiran is across on the other side,
Yes.
the side of Kianda School.
Yes.
So your property is now across the road.
Yes.
Okay.
Chair.
Yes.
I would like to understand, just following up, what was the reason for the sale, and what was the value of that property when you bought it?
The reason for the sale was in keeping with a government move to get out of non-core operations, and therefore houses and the like, except for critical buildings, were being disposed. And this is how we ended up buying it. And if I recall correctly, the price at that point was about 38 million shillings. That was the market valuation given.
Which year was that?
It's about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. Moving to the next question, where Honorable Wandai spoke about the time that I acted and that there was court action and there was a lot of turmoil in the boardroom. Perhaps I could go to this issue from a sequencing. This turmoil in the boardroom happened before. It happened before I was appointed. If my memory serves me right, it happened around March or April of 2019. I was appointed in August. of 2019. So I would want to believe that the two issues were not related.
So there were court battles in which you are also involved, injuncting you from going to the office, lifting the injunction.
Yes, I'm still progressing.
If my memory serves me right.
Yes, I'm still progressing. So I was appointed in August, on August 22nd, and by that time, already there was court action, because in April 2019, there was court action challenging the legitimacy of appointment of board of directors. I had not been appointed then. So that by August 22nd, when the then DG's term came to an end, there was no sitting board. So I was appointed on exception by the State Corporations Advisory Council and not the board, because there was no sitting board. And subsequent thereto, I proceeded...
But who announced your appointment? Wasn't it the minister?
Yes, I was appointed by Clerk, but the appointment was announced by the chair of the board, who could not convene a board meeting because the board was inquirate.
Minister Mucheru who announced your appointment?
No, it was announced by the sitting chair then, with the public sector board members who were present, because the board was not queried. But that indeed was during the tenure of CS Mucheru.
Yeah, but Chair, how was the former DG removed? If even though his tenure came to an end, and he was complaining that he is being removed from office unceremoniously, if the board was not fully constituted, how was he exited from the corporation?
Mercy.
The term of the DG's term came to an end by operation of law, and that came to an end on 22nd of August 2019.
He went to court.
Yes, he did go to court, indicating that he required an additional term to carry on, but by the term of law, the term came to an end. So it is at that time I was appointed by SCAC.
But if he knew his term has come to an end, was he a madman to go to court?
And Chair, as she answers that, no, this is very important, Honorable Chair. It was at the heart of this issue, really. Do you remember sometime in November 2019, when you, together with some members of the board, called the media to the authorities' offices in an attempt at what you called clarifying a court decision regarding your appointment as acting DG of the authority? Okay. You then went ahead to publish the statement on the authority's website. In a clear attempt to deny your then boss Wangusi a chance to resume his office. Okay. How do you make what do you make of this, of all this? It puts you at the heart of the machinations to take control of the authority in a very unprocedural manner. And remember, thereafter you acted for 2 full years, and you are never confirmed as full substantive DG. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Through the chair, when a court order is issued, the Communications Authority of Kenya has always abided by the court order. If a court order had been issued for me to vacate office, I would have been the first to vacate the office. So when the litigation was mounted, with the former DG requesting to come back into the office, what we did was to clarify, based on legal guidance given, on what the import of that court order was. And that court order did not include vacating office. So my remaining in office was in order. Indeed, if at the time when the board was constituted and it came into office, if it had wished to substitute me for any of my colleagues who would have been more than able to handle the job, they would have done so. So I carried on performing the duties of acting DG until end of September, when a successful appointment was made. No court order was breached during that time. Indeed, the legal risk that persisted during that duration was very high, and I was able, through very diligent following up and not entertaining any adjournments, to actually have those governance-related matters concluded in slightly more than 12 months, about 12 or 13 months inside of COVID. So there was no attempt whatsoever to delay or derail that process at all.
Yeah. Chair, your statement. You see, Chair, by the time the nominee was being appointed as an acting DG, there was no proper board in that organization. As you said, her appointment came from the ministry. She was appointed by the then minister, Mucheru. That is what is on record, Chairman. Unless otherwise she can give us proof that it is the board that appointed her. You have a board appointment or something. The fact of the matter is, at that point in time, there was no proper board that was properly constituted.
Chair, if I may, the State Corporations Act has some remainder powers which provides that where there is no board that is sitting and able to make a decision, the State Corporations Advisory Council kicks in for purposes of business continuity. As I indicated earlier, I was appointed by SCAC, and SCAC acted rightly in making that appointment given the circumstances and the situation of the day.
So these board members were acting on behalf of SCAC when they issued this statement in November 2019? Yes.
SCAC made the recommendation. Then we had a sitting chair, and we had the board members who hold office by virtue, who hold board membership by virtue of office. These are the representatives of the ministry, the representative of the treasury. These hold board membership in the authority by virtue of office. So those ones are permanent
Do they constitute
members.
quorum?
Yes.
But they did not constitute quorum. So the appointment by SCAC, made as I indicated on exceptional basis, is the one that was made under the State Corporations Act because we did not have a quorate board.
Chair, the procedure of appointing the Director General of Communications Authority, you know it very well, Madam.
Yes.
SCAC has no role there. The procedure is well stipulated in law on how to appoint the board members of... I participated in crafting the Communications Authority Bill in the 11th Parliament. And it was a very rigorous and very well public participated bill, I remember, under the chairmanship of Honorable Jamle Kamau. So how to appoint the Director General of CA and how to appoint the board members of CA are very clearly stipulated in that law. So anything outside that is an illegality. And I know you're a senior lawyer, and that is even more senior, the chair.
Yeah, so just to follow up on, she has used two words interchangeably, that she said first she was appointed by SCAC, then she said she was recommended for appointment by SCAC. So which is the correct position?
Okay. So allow me to really clarify this, because it is indeed not an illegality, and I would wish to clarify this. In April 2019, some members, the term of some members of the board expired and was due for renewal. New board members were appointed, and there was litigation challenging the appointment of the new board
Was that
members.
Kembe or Githuku?
That during Gituku's tenure. So upon that court order arising from that litigation, there was no sitting board, there was no quorate board capable of sitting and discharging the business of the authority from April 2019. The DG Wangusi's term came to an end at the end of August. There is still no sitting board because there is no quorum. What is to happen in a situation like that? This is where the State Corporations Act kicks in, because in the event of an inability of a state corporation to discharge critical business such as this, the state corporation kicks in because it is a critical shareholder in any state corporation and ensures business continuity. So it is on that basis that SCAC made a recommendation that I be appointed to hold
You are right.
during that time.
Chair, through you, she's right, but the chair, still the state corporation could extend the term of Wangusi, then prepare or appoint a proper board now to appoint a substantive DG. There was some machination there, Chairman.
But that she can't answer that because she was not the board. But you have to explain, Mercy.
Yes.
Now, SCAC recommends, as Owen asks, recommended to who to appoint you? Because you've said SCAC appointed you.
Yes.
Then you later said SCAC recommended your appointment.
Okay. So when SCAC did the recommendation, this is addressed to the principal secretary because government is the majority shareholder of any state corporation. So it was in that capacity that the PS ICT, I believe then it was PS Jerome Ochieng, together with the chair and the other board members who sit by virtue of office, then appointed me to hold
chair?
fort.
The chair had gone.
Ben Gituko was sitting.
Okay.
Yes, and that is how I was appointed. I just wish to clarify, Chair, that I did not hold fort through an illegality.
Now tell us, Mercy.
Yes.
What do you understand to be your duty as Secretary of the Cabinet?
So I had some other questions. Should I?
Okay, then finish answering.
Okay, all right.
Follow the
so
chair.
The other question was on my position on the DMS, the device management system. Chair, this system, the DMS system, was aimed at enhancing security and quality of standards for consumers. And the objective for the DMS was to identify all devices that use mobile services in Kenya and to enable users to verify if the device they were using is genuine before purchase. I know that there has been a narrative about it being a spying gadget. We all know that technology has immense capabilities, but every technology is formatted as fit for purpose for a certain reason. And this was to get rid of the counterfeits that come into the market that are not value for money for a consumer. And at some point, the DMS system was a subject to litigation. And at the Court of Appeal, the court found that we could carry on with the implementation subject to carrying out extensive stakeholder participation, which we did from the middle of last year to date, and the matter is pending at the Supreme Court as we speak. The last question was that I have dealt with boards that are smaller and are comprised of sector players. How will I handle a board of 24 and largely comprised of politicians? Chair, if I may indicate, yes, indeed, I have dealt with boards of 11 to 13, which is the typical state corporation board. The membership and the cornerstone of the membership is actually diversity. So this is not a homogeneous board. It does have diversity of skills, diversity of experiences in order to bring value. I believe that a board of 24, while it may be larger in number, has the same principle at the cornerstone of it, which is to exercise individual and collective responsibility and to move the implementation and progression of government policy through decision making through the cabinet. I have reflected deeply on this nomination, on my experiences from the past and my experience, and I believe, Honorable Chair and members, that if nominated, I am more than able to handle this task. Indeed, this comes at a national level, which is a great honor, having come from a sector-specific environment. Thank you.
Chair, if you allow me, just one thing. I agree with you that the principles are the same. But you see, in Communications Authority, you're dealing with only one product, communication. You move to cabinet, you're dealing with agriculture, with transport, with energy, with education, with livestock, all manner of things. The subject is so diverse and the issues are diverse and, you know, at the macro level. But you handled only one. You know, I would have been convinced if you had worked in posta, in agriculture, in, you know, at least a little bit of many things. But only one thing, then you are, you are using the escalator to get into cabinet with all that diverse, and you have not been in mainstream government. Are you going to help this country?
Could I respond to that? Okay. Through the chair, indeed, the 22 years have largely been within the ICT sector, which, interestingly, is not a homogeneous sector. It carries various subsectors in it: electronic commerce, cybersecurity, postal, telecommunications. So within it is a diversity of offerings. I did also indicate that over the years, I have actually sat and participated in non-executive capacity in quite a number of institutions, which, if you may, I would like to enumerate. I served on a number of boards as an alternate to the Director General from about 2018. I served in the education sector as an alternate at the Multimedia University, and it is at that time that the college became chartered and moved to become a university. I also sat on the ICT board, which is ICT driven but is more towards government to citizen connection, much as it is in the sector. I have served on the council of the Institute of Chartered Public Secretaries of Kenya. I have chaired, I'm the immediate past chair of the Certified Public Secretary Board, and currently I sit as a trustee in the SOS Children's Home. These experiences have been very diverse and have brought to my knowledge and in my participation very cross-cutting issues from education, children matters and social welfare, education, and others. I have also undertaken quite extensive training in this area, which I believe will bear me well. I believe this places me in a good space, having had that diversity of exposure to come in and handle the aspects at the national level, be they transport and infrastructure, agriculture, education, the digital economy, and the like, because indeed ICT of its very nature is very cross-cutting and is no longer conventional. ICT has now been used as a vehicle to transmit across the board from agriculture to infrastructure, because Kenya has a very ambitious broadband policy towards becoming a digitally transformed nation. I think from where I come from, it could not have been a better place as we move towards the next.
Yes, Mercy. Now go back to the question I asked you. What do you understand to be the role and duties of a secretary to the cabinet?
Thank you, Chair. The role of the Secretary to the Cabinet is captured in Article 154 of the Constitution, and this is a very critical office because it sits to support the progression of government business, meaning it sits to execute the different policy agendas that would enable achieve the economic transformation agenda going forward. As Secretary of the Cabinet, this is a role that carries a very high threshold of accountability and trust. Indeed, it carries a responsibility that would require one to be very well aware of the subject issues as to prepare them for prosecution at the cabinet in liaison with the various cabinet secretaries. And I am aware that there's a lot of technical capacity that has been availed to enable this kind of quality progression of matters to the cabinet to enable individual and collective decision making going forward. This role not only enables decision making, which is one part, it also enables and facilitates execution of those decisions by way of liaising with the various ministries, the various issues they may be having any enablement. And I recognize that the current Executive Order number 1 of 2022 does actually clarify clearly about the need for liaison and coordination across the board in order to enable the speediness or the efficiency of execution of this role. This office also has other attendant duties, such as chairing the assumption of office, swearing in, and other ceremonial duties, and any other duty that may be delegated by the President or the Cabinet, as the case may be.
Now, just 1 minute, Kimani. Article 35 of the Constitution gives, let me just finish this, then I'll give to you. Gives every citizen the right to information.
Yes.
Now, as Secretary of the Cabinet, you emerge out of Cabinet and you are confronted by Robert Mbui, who demands to know under Article 35 what you have been discussing. How do you conduct yourself there?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Indeed.
You've understood the question?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Indeed, one of the roles of this office is to communicate decision-making to the public, to the mwananchi, because any decision made is made in trust for the benefit of the mwananchi. However, this office, because of the nature of business it handles, is couched within a framework of confidentiality and secrecy. And it is therefore important that before communication is made, it is packaged in such a way that it is fit for consumption by the mwananchi and in keeping with the safeguards that are provided for in the space of confidentiality and secrecy.
Just on a point of order, because there is a question I asked that she did not answer, and it relates to just part of what she was articulating in terms of her being, if she was successful, following up on execution of what has been discussed by cabinet. And that's why I asked, supposing you are to execute something in Teso South through the county commissioner of Teso South, I had asked a very specific question, and just appreciating that you're coming from a corporate sector transitioning to the public sector. I was just testing your geography, whether you know where Teso South is.
Okay. I want to confirm that she has been to Migori.
Now, yes, Naisula.
Thank you, Chair.
Take Naisula, Murugara, Amisi, and Mary Masi. One each.
Thank you, Chair. And my question is almost related to what you've asked, because I wanted to ask how she will balance.
What I just asked?
I want to say, the balance between sharing information to the public and confidentiality matters cabinet. But I want to just say that in this era of digital life, where everything is online, information is relayed almost in real time. Screenshots, we can get screenshots of cabinet meetings and what was discussed before you've synthesized it enough to share to the public. So I would like to know how you will ensure that you will manage this until the information is ready to be shared to the public.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair. As you've clearly indicated duties and roles, looking back on the orders of that position, like Sally Kosgei, she was such a powerful woman during Moi's regime, Francis Kimemia, Kibaki's regime, Joseph Kinyua. Now, I'm wondering, if you see the roles and the positions that were called, permanent secretary, then PS, head of service, they were more or less doing the same thing that you are going to. In fact, in the previous regime, this role was silent. So maybe it was given to head of public service. Now that's where the confusion is. That there's now the head of public service, and now you are going to be the secretary. So Kenyans will be wondering, are you still even motivated that the previous occupants had an expanded role and even a bigger name, while yours seems to be, shrinking. Now, on top of your shrinking salary and on top of your previous assignment, you are not confirmed. You are the DG, but they didn't confirm you. Instead, they put in Ezra Chiloba, somebody else from outside. Is this somewhat really, do you still have the strength to get motivated for this job? Thank you.
Murugara.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Nominee, as the Secretary to the Cabinet, you will be keeping the minutes of the Cabinet and the decisions made in the Cabinet meetings, which is what is used to run government. But besides that, we have what are known as roadside declarations. And the ones possibly made by His Excellency the President, I may forgive you for that, because usually that is done. But ministers, your cabinet secretaries, he comes to Tharaka where he comes from, we dance for him, and as he leaves the place, he declares that we are going to get a dam immediately. When actually that has not been discussed in the cabinet, it is not minuted anywhere, it's purely roadside. How will you be dealing with such decisions?
Mary Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to inform the nominee that one of the vernacular radio stations that is being regulated by the authority that was acting DG actually is domiciled in Teso South. Having said that, I think my question is, what are your strengths? What do you think are your strengths to enable you, that make you fit for this position? Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, yeah, my question was what Honorable Murugara has just asked, but I just want to add something. In a scenario where you are being pushed or you are coerced from the executive or rather from the ministries that you need to do some changes in the minutes without following the proper procedure, can you withstand political pressure? Number two, how will you ensure there is synergy and proper coordination among the ministry?
Can you answer those? I think we're coming to an end.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll start off with the first question on how would I achieve the balance between sharing information in the digital age and taking due care to ensure that that information is captured and crystallized as should be. Indeed, Mr. Chairman, information sharing in the digital age is unprecedented, and often critical information can go viral very, very quickly. And this becomes the stage for the recognition of official channels of communication in order to mitigate against fake news and this kind of release of information that would happen. I want to believe that the same due care and effort that happens in the boardroom in taking of minutes applies at the cabinet, and even more so, that those kind of safeguards are already in place. And because decisions that are made at the national level often will carry components that are very sensitive, such as components on security. It could carry components that capture the aspect of defense and others. It would be very important to recognize an official channel of release so that such aspects are removed when official communication is released in collaboration with the communications team that would exist to support the cabinet office. Going to the next question about where is the motivation in a space where the role of the secretary to cabinet seems to have diminished from previous holders. Mr. Chairman, I want to believe that within the Constitution of Kenya 2010, this was the first time that this office was recognized in a singular nature. And I also have asked myself why, given that this office has been held before. But what came to me is that this came about 50 years into independence, and a lot has happened in Kenya. The economy has grown, and a lot of issues have deepened and become more complex. As a result, every administration has within its right a leeway in which to organize and design how it will conduct its business in the manner that it deems fit. And I want to believe that His Excellency the President, in the executive order, found it fit to organize it this way. The Cabinet Office is an enduring institution, and even when this role has been combined with others, it has continued to discharge its function. And examining the current commitment in the economic transformation agenda, I sense a couple of things. I sense a deepening of execution of decisions. I sense a greater effort towards collaboration. And because of this, I sense that this office will be required to then deepen its collaborative effort in driving decision-making arising out of this cabinet. I believe this office is set apart in an effort to build on the foundations that have been set and to make it even more agile to drive execution of decision-making and in order to drive government business. Moving on to the next question by Honorable Murugara on how to handle roadside declarations, because this indeed will be made from time to time, and this is the reality. I am aware that even when roadside declarations are made, in order to enable implementation, that decision is normally crystallized into a formal nature to enable decision making. And at that point is when the caution that will enable picking up any interdependencies, any concerns that needed to be addressed are identified and provided for, so that at the end of the day, when the communique goes out for implementation, it is as holistic as would have been anticipated had this decision been made in a formal sitting. This is how I would propose to deal with it. Then going to the question by Honorable Mishi Mboko, how to withstand pressure in the event of preparation of minutes. Through the chair, preparation of minutes is the duty of the Secretary to Cabinet. And these minutes are done and confirmed by the same cabinet and owned by the chair of that cabinet, who would be His Excellency. I want to believe that in the space of that kind of coordination and collaboration, minutes sometimes can be adjusted to give a full reflection of what it is that was desired or what it is that was meant for those minutes to give full effect. But I did understand the Honorable Mishi Mboko to indicate where changes are being made that are extraordinary, which would then be brought to the attention of the chair of the cabinet. Then going to Honorable Emase's question on what my strengths are. Through the chair, I bring first and foremost a span of public sector experience. I come indeed from the parastatal space, as has been indicated, but I have worked with government deeply. As I indicated earlier, for the last 15 to 18 years, I have been developing policies and regulatory frameworks, which, as you all know, are prosecuted through the House, through the National Assembly, and through the ICT committees. Indeed, the sector has had several pieces of legislation, and this is a role that I have handled for at least 15 years. So I have a sense of how government works, and this is what I bring. I also bring abilities in leadership. I bring in energy and competencies in law, in governance, in strategy, and I believe this will bring me to bear. Honorable Chair, I bring integrity, and I'm an honest learner. And indeed, over the years, with the evolution of technology, I have been in a space where we have learned and relearned to keep up with the pace of technology. I bring a work culture that serves collegiality and respect, and this, I believe, will bear me well, patriotism and collective decision-making. So, Mr. Chairman, I believe within the commitment of achieving the weighty roles that this office carries, and also in keeping an open door policy and communication, that these are strengths that I believe will earn me the goodwill and the open door ability to collaborate with others in order to execute my role.
Have you answered all of them?
Yes, I have, Chairman.
Thank you. Posing, I wanted to close here, but I'll give you half a minute.
Thank you, Chair, and for indulging me. I really appreciate. I want to be on record, Chair, not really as a question, but maybe a comment, by saying, Chair, that I've listened. First of all, I looked at when you gave us the opportunity to look at that office, cabinet or secretary of the cabinet, and I was asking myself, vetting this office for what? As Parliament. I want to be on record, Chair, because maybe our contribution, our talk might lead to amendments or changes that might give this office some significance. There before, in the past, this office was very powerful. Why? Because it was head of public service and secretary to the cabinet. That was when this office was really important. Last Parliament, we declined one person who was being proposed for this office, and Parliament declined and rejected. That is the first rejection by Parliament. They may not say it's a person, but Parliament rejected. And yet, Honorable Chair, that office functioned even without approval of Parliament for about 10 years. So maybe going forward, maybe the people who thought about this office being in the Constitution Speaker and being vetted by Parliament, that the function would also involve the public service or something like that. Maybe in future, so that it has a meaning. The nominee has really undergone grueling process, but if you look at the end, at the further end, you ask yourself, what is she going to do? So I wish her, if Parliament approves her, I wish her well. But in future, maybe that office should be combined with the Secretary of Cabinet and Head of Public Service. That's when it will have a meaning, Honorable Speaker. I thank you, in my opinion.
Yes, Ferdinand, I saw you raising your hand. I want us to conclude.
Yeah, I think it's more or less touched on what I've said. But looking at where you're coming from, that office has been vacant for some time. It doesn't matter your background. You're a lawyer, can see, you know most of the things. You've been surely in the private sector, and you're getting into the political area, which is actually very, very stormy. I don't know how prepared you are to be able to get in there. Of course, you have mentioned about it, but I just felt that maybe this position, you'll have continued where you are. And this position is, I don't know, it's not easy. Because it's not been there.
Ichungwa?
Chair, I think is fair what the honourable members are raising, including the proposals by Honourable Kosing. But we must also bear in mind that the president had his reasons, both the former president and the current president, in separating the two offices. But maybe just as I conclude, to inform the nominee, should you be approved, things work a little differently in the public sector than in the corporate world, where you are coming from, and you may need to do a lot of learning. That's why I was asking you a very simple question, where Teso South is in Busia. No, Honorable Junet said she knows where Migori is because she has been in function with her in Migori. So you may need to quickly appraise yourselves on issues that may be outside the office setting, especially more so even in opening up the office to members of parliament, as you hear people saying here, to be able to engage more with people and be appraised also on people issues, so that you, even as you sit in cabinet, you're also appraised of the issues that touch on the people. And we say that because we sit here representing people who have sent us here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, allow me inform the nominee where Teso South is. Teso South is in Busia County, and the MP is seated right here. Thank you.
And it's a frontier constituency to
yes,
Uganda.
When you want to go to Uganda, I will be delighted to welcome you and help you cross.
Yes, Mercy, I think we'll conclude here. I give you 3 minutes to tell us your wish.
Okay.
What lawyers would call you a... yes.
It was raised by Honorable Kosing. I wanted to correct.
Yes.
I participated in the rejection of the previous nominee for this position. She was being rejected because of the performance of her previous office, not for the office that she was appointed. She was coming from another office, so members were judging her with that other office, not because of this office. So, you know, we may think that we were okay.
Yes, Mercy.
Thank you, Chair.
Your final testament.
Yes.
3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Let me just indicate that I come from the parastatal world, and in the course of discharging the mandate of the Communications Authority of Kenya, I have traversed the length and width of Kenya, inspecting base stations, quality of service inspections, and the like. And I want to believe that I'm fairly knowledgeable on the terrain of this country. In coming to a conclusion, Chair and honorable members, it has been a pleasure to be hosted in this committee, and I think this has been quite an engagement for me, for which I'm very grateful. Indeed, it has shed light on some of the perspectives and insights that I need to bear in mind if approved, that I would carry these insights going forward into this office. I'm profoundly grateful that the culmination of 22 years of public service would find me in this space. This for me is a confirmation that indeed public service commitment and effort can bring somebody, any Kenyan, to find themselves to a place such as this and rise to a position such as the one that I have been nominated to if appointed. I want to assure you, Chair, honorable members, His Excellency the President, that if afforded this opportunity through confirmation, that I will bring my energy and effort to bring a full expression to this office as currently set out in the Constitution, and will remain true to the Constitution and to the values and principles of public service. Indeed, at this point in my life, it is a deep desire to be part of making the dream for a prosperous Kenya for all come true. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercy. We thank you for this positive engagement. You are now released to go back to your other duties.
Thank you.
Sergeant, you can... and there is iko chai ya ushuru hapa nje. Yes, you... Honorable members, I think we've come to the end of this long but very diverse and interesting process of confirmation hearings. It has been in public domain. We thank the media for relaying each and every of these proceedings live. I'm sure through the proceedings you have been in communication with Kenyans. Some have been even sending you questions to ask on their behalf. I want on behalf of the National Assembly to sincerely thank the committee members, particularly for accepting to serve in this committee upon nomination, because you had the choice to decline, for sparing your time, working for inordinately long hours. We have been sitting from literally 8 to 8. We want to extend some congratulations to all the nominees for keeping time, turning up on time, and engaging the committee with decorum and respect. I want to thank all of you members for carrying the dignity of the House at every level in the manner that we have conducted the proceedings. There is not a single revulsion I've had of us being overbearing or leaning too hard maliciously on any member. Even where very hard questions have been asked, they have been all geared towards establishing the suitability of the nominee to hold the office to which they have been nominated. We still have much more to do. As you are aware, from here you are retreating to start preparing the report. We cannot keep the government and the country in suspense without cabinet, because the role of cabinet and our constitutional dispensation is critical and clear. So we will retreat to prepare our report, which should be out by early next week. The rest will be through the normal laid out steps and our standing orders, because we are a committee of the plenary of Parliament. We must report back to the plenary of Parliament through the House Business Committee, and whatever report we make must also be voted on and accepted by the plenary of Parliament for transmission to the requesting authority, which is His Excellency the President. So on your behalf, I want to extend a very sincere thanks to the public for resonating with the committee, the media, for giving very extensive and open coverage to the proceedings, our backroom staff, Sarah, our clerk, and her team for making sure all the documentation are at hand, our staff out there who have made sure you have your teas and your mandazis and your lunch on time, and everybody who has in one way or another, the office of the sergeant, who have made it possible for us to do this work this far. So I want to request now the Fourth Estate to take your leave and leave us to do some housekeeping business on the next steps to take. Thank you very much, and have a good weekend for those who will have no work to do, and a fruitful, busy working weekend for all of us who have to shift from this venue to another venue. Thank you.
The world's biggest sporting event is here with us. The FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar. KBC Television will air live 28 selected matches, while radio will beam live all the 64 matches. We would like to bring to the attention of the public that KBC is the only station that has exclusive 2022 FIFA World Cup free-to-air